The Wisconsin Supreme Court rejects Democrats' challenges to the congressional map. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today it is time that we talk about redistricting because everyone, Democrats suffered a shocking defeat at the Wisconsin Supreme Court as the court just rejected Democrats' appeal to overturn the maps in the state of Wisconsin. Yeah, the Democrat Supreme Court said, no, we are not going to change the congressional districts, at least for now. Democrats were banking on this, by the way. Their entire strategy was, we got to get the court to say yes to redistricting, and we will take back the House. Now, in under a week, they suffered a defeat in both New York and Wisconsin. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, let's get right into it because I am absolutely shocked that this happened. I thought for certain they were going to redistrict this cycle. I really did. But they decided no. Now, to be clear, they did change the maps for the state legislature, but that's a whole separate lawsuit that was dealt with a couple weeks ago. This is the congressional map, and Republicans keep their map, which currently is 6-2 Republican. So let's get right into it. The liberal-controlled Wisconsin Supreme Court on Friday rejected a Democratic lawsuit that sought to throw out the battleground state's congressional maps, marking a victory for Republicans who argued against the court taking up the case. Which, again, this whole lawsuit about how the maps are secretly rigged in Wisconsin, they're not. It's just basic geography, and hey, while Madison and Milwaukee are super Democrat, the rest of the state, which is the vast majority of the population, is in Republican-leaning areas. That's a fact. Democrats have all of their votes in 2 cities. That's it. Plus, there was a good argument of, hey, Janet Protasewicz should recuse herself. And I believe she did in this case because, guess what? She ran on the campaign of, we are going to overturn the rigged maps before this case was even filed. There was some questions of, hey, you're already making a judgment of a case that you haven't heard yet? The decision leaves the state's current congressional district boundaries in place for the November election. The decision not to hear the congressional challenge comes after the court in December ordered new legislative maps, saying the Republican-drawn ones were unconstitutional. The GOP-controlled legislature, out of fear that the court would order maps even more unfavorable to Republicans, passed ones drawn by Democratic Governor Tony Evers. He signed those into law on February 19th and urged the court to take up the congressional map challenge. I think they tried a little too hard here. It's like, okay, you're going to be lucky to get one of the maps overturned, which they did. They got the state legislative maps, which you look at them, they still have Republicans with a majority. But you try to take out both of them at the same time. That's kind of stretching it. I mean, one map is difficult enough, but even for the Democrat majority, taking up 2 separate lawsuits like this, that's always been a question mark that I had of, hey, would they really take this up? I know they're Democrats, but at some point it's like, okay, this might be pushing it a little too much. The Elias Law Group, which filed the congressional challenge on behalf of Democratic voters, said the court's decision on the legislative maps opened the door to them revisiting the other maps. But the court declined to take up the case. It did not give a reason in the unanimous unsigned order. Yeah. This wasn't just, oh, one Democrat is against it. It was the entire court saying no. And remember, these are Wisconsin Democrats. These are some of the most partisan ones you can imagine. When they even say, okay, this is stretching it way too far, that's how bad of a case this was. Justice Protasewicz, whose election last year gave liberals a majority on the court, did not participate. There was a request for her to recuse, but Protasewicz said she didn't participate because she wasn't on the court when the case was originally brought. Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan, one of the most liberal members of Congress, said he was very disappointed with the decision not to take the case. When you have a purple state that's 50-50, it's harder to have 6 seats representing one party and 2 representing another. And I think it's anything close to fair, Pocan said in a text message. I know people will be disappointed and wonder why, nearly a year after the last Supreme Court election, that more wasn't done. Oh, boo frickin' who? If you're so worried about fairness, why haven't you said a damn thing about Illinois? Yeah, it's a Democrat state, but you could easily draw like 6 or 7 Republican seats and make it look nicer. Connecticut, you could have a safe Republican seat. There are so many states with clear Democratic gerrymanders, but those are clearly fair because more Democrat seats equals fair. That's what he really means. I mean, for crying out loud, look what they did in Alabama and Louisiana. They drew hideous maps just to get Democrats an extra seat. Two of the court's conservative members, Chief Justice Ziegler and Justice Rebecca Bradley, ruled that although the case was rightfully rejected, it likely won't be long until the new majority flexes its political power again to advance a partisan agenda despite the damage inflicted on the independence and integrity of the court, which we all know, ever since Democrats took over the court, it has been an absolute joke. I mean, every 5 seconds there's a scandal leaking, they decide a decision beforehand, they have closed-door meetings without the conservatives. It's a mess. Rich Eisenberg, president of the conservative Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, which along with the GOP-controlled legislator sought Protastewicz recusal, praised the court's action. This matter was settled 2 years ago, and there's no need to redraw the congressional maps, Eisenberg said in a statement. The request to redraw these maps was both procedurally improper and legally wrong, and we are glad the court has declined the invitation to revisit this matter, and I agree with it. Listen, it is not normal to have this many lawsuits 4 or 5 years after redistricting was supposed to be done. I mean, be done with it after 2022. Before 2022, fine. You can have lawsuits, whatever. But it isn't normal to have 50 lawsuits every single year about the maps being rigged. At some point, it's like, okay, enough with redistricting, just get over it. The court faced a tight deadline to act in time for the November election. Wisconsin's Election Commission has said district boundaries must be set by mid-March to meet deadlines for election officials and candidates. Candidates can start circulating nomination papers on April 15th for the August 13th primary. And this is why there is a possibility that next year they have another lawsuit, because they can just say, oh, well, it's too late now. And I think that's what's going to happen. Next year, there probably will be a lawsuit involving the congressional maps suddenly being unfair. But for 2024, which is what matters, the maps are staying. In the legislative maps ruling, the state Supreme Court said the earlier conservative-controlled court was wrong in 2021 to say that maps drawn that year should have as little change as possible from the maps that were in place at the time. The lawsuit argued the decision warranted replacing the congressional district maps that were drawn under the least change requirement. 6 of the state's 8 congressional seats are held by Republicans. In 2010, the year before Republicans redrew the maps, Democrats held 5 seats compared with 3 for Republicans. Gee, I wonder why. It's as if a certain Democrat won the state by 14 in 2008. I wonder if that happened. It did. Back in 2008 and 2010, Democrats did a lot better in the rural parts of the state than they do now. That's why they won 5 of the 3 seats. And that same map in 2008, if that was a current map now, it would be 6-2 Republican. Is there some conspiracy that the map back then was unfair? I guarantee you if it was the same map, it would still be 6-2. But either way, this technically ends the redistricting cycle. I know, there might be some lawsuits here and there, some questions about Section 2, but outside of that, Republicans have gotten some real good news the past 2 to 3 weeks. Now, it has not been a perfect cycle. We took big L's in Alabama and Louisiana. But North Carolina putting in the work to get us 3 extra seats single-handedly saved us from losing the House for sure. If it wasn't for that, Republicans would not have a shot in hell of keeping the House. And Democrats the past 2 to 3 weeks have been receiving L after L after L when it comes to redistricting. I mean, their entire legal strategy was flip a bunch of seats in New York and flip some seats in Wisconsin. Not only did they gain like only one seat in New York, they didn't gain squat in Wisconsin, which they were banking on, because now Democrats have a much tougher time at taking the House. They were banking on, we're going to flip the House through lawfare. It worked in Alabama, it worked in Louisiana, but it blew up in their face in New York and now in Wisconsin. And if it wasn't for the Alabama and Louisiana stuff, Republicans would have a real good shot at keeping the House, if not the clear favorites. But in my opinion, the biggest takeaway from this entire saga is Republicans have to get better at this. They should be suing every single Democrat map. California, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, whatever. If it isn't maximizing Republicans, sue it. Democrats do it. I mean, they would probably sue Wyoming if they wanted to. They probably did. I mean, Republicans get sued everywhere. Why can't Republicans do the same thing back? Sue Democrats' maps. Just sue them everywhere. All right? Every state. New Mexico, Illinois, Connecticut. Sure, you might only gain one seat, but Democrats have been focused on gaining just one seat here and one seat there. If it wasn't for North Carolina, do people understand how screwed we would be? Plus, we got some wins in Wisconsin. If it wasn't for North Carolina, we would have zero shot at keeping the House. That's how bad some of these lawsuits have been for Republicans. And they got to understand, do the same crap. Sue every Democrat map and go after crap like Section 2, which is illegal, but Republicans don't talk about it. That should be the main focus going forward. Sue every map that's not favorable and go after Section 2 until it's gone. We cannot keep letting Democrats pull the same crap. It didn't go well for them this time, but look what happened in Alabama. Look what happened in Louisiana. They got 2 extra safe Democrat seats because of it. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Thank you so much. Godspeed to all of you.